I made this video a while back talking about the off-season grades around the league, and I was holding off on a part 2 because I was thinking the Golden State Warriors would do something, would do anything to try to build around Steph Curry for his twilight years. Come to find out, this was their plan the entire time. Let me know in the comments what you think the Golden State Warriors off-season grade should be. This video is going to center around 4 teams that I feel like have not done a great job this offseason, but their transgressions started years ago. First thing we got to talk about is the Memphis Grizzlies.
Who do you look at around the league as you're studying and say, we're going to have to run through them?
Celtics.
No one in the West.
Nah, I'm fine in the West.
You would think the next portion of this conversation is the Grizzlies in the conference finals battling the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves. Instead, it's Dillon Brooks poking the bear one too many times in LeBron James. Now you're out in the first round. Then the following season, Ja Morant's both dealing with injuries and suspension issues. And look, my opinion is this: Ja Morant is a grown man who's going to make grown man decisions, but as an organization that's invested so much into Ja Morant, you need to protect your investment, even if it's protecting your investment from himself. So 2 things can be true: Ja's at fault, and the Grizzlies are also at fault. The next domino to fall is Desmond Bane. You trade him to the Orlando Magic for Caldwell Pope, Cole Anthony, and a bunch of picks and pick swaps. Then you follow that up a year later with Jaren Jackson being traded from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Utah Jazz for Taylor Hendricks, Kyle Anderson, Niang, rookies, draft picks, and you just watch this fall apart so quickly in the span of a few years. And in a move just to get rid of him, you trade Ja Morant, your franchise player, your franchise cornerstone, for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. No draft picks at all in this deal. All of the things that have transpired over the years, over the past 5 to 6 years. You draft Ja Morant, you draft Jaren Jackson, you get Bane, you get Brooks. You're building a culture and you watch it fall apart because you don't know what you're doing beyond the draft room. Now we got to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and how did we get here? How did we get Giannis Antetokounmpo now wearing a Miami Heat jersey? Y'all problems started after you won the championship in 2021. You beat the Phoenix Suns 4-2 in the NBA Finals to capture your first championship since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there. The following season, you go toe-to-toe with the Celtics in the conference semis. In 7 games, you end up losing that series. Then the following year, you're in the first round versus the Miami Heat, and Giannis goes down with his first of 3 straight playoff injuries. Then you end up getting bounced in the first round to the Miami Heat. You go into the offseason knowing you got to put another star by Giannis Antetokounmpo, not thinking it's going to cost you Drew Holiday. In my opinion, this was the first domino in Giannis wanting to leave. The next 2 seasons is absolutely crazy because you have Adrian Griffin, a new head coach, after firing Mike Budenholzer. He steps in, he goes 30-13. They're 3rd in the Eastern Conference, and you fire him to bring in Doc Rivers, who just happens to be the advisor to the front office. That doesn't sound sketchy at all. Then you finish that regular season, you go into the playoffs. Dame and Giannis are both hampered by injuries. You lose in the first round. Let's run it back. Same exact thing happens the following season. Injuries, Pacers out in the first round. Then the last year of Giannis in Milwaukee was really Giannis versus the front office. Front office is saying, hey, sign the deal or we're going to trade you. Giannis doesn't want to sign the deal. He wants to be traded, but he also wants to play the remainder of the regular season. The front office says, no can do. Go sit down somewhere. Giannis goes to the league office and says, hey, you should investigate this. I'm healthy. I can play. They won't let me play. So it starts this whole tit for tat until finally the summertime comes. Now we're bidding. Now we're showcasing Giannis to the highest bidder. Is he going to Boston? Is he going to Golden State? He ends up in Miami. They trade Giannis Antetokounmpo, their franchise player, the greatest player in their franchise's history, for Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware, Kasparis Yakichonis, and 5 future draft picks. If it wasn't for that haul and how I feel about the players the Miami Heat traded to Milwaukee, I'd be giving Milwaukee a fail. But because of the haul that they got, I'll give Milwaukee a D+, because this is not how you treat the greatest player in your franchise's history. It would be a C+, C- if they would have had a little bit more respect and honored his request graciously. Now let's move on to the Boston Celtics, the team in green. Your issues also start after you won an NBA championship in 2024. The worst thing that could have happened was Jaylen Brown winning Eastern Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP. Because for so many years, the conversation was about who was better. Whose team was it? Is it Tatum's? Is it Brown's? How do you tell a guy with all of the hardware that he still has to play second fiddle? You can't. And not only that, he becomes eligible for the largest contract in NBA history. You fail to make another significant move to go after a repeat, and then in your failed repeat attempt, you lose Jason Tatum to an Achilles injury versus the New York Knicks. Thus, the trifecta is complete. See, it takes three things to become Batman. Number one, the play on the court. Jaylen Brown did that. Number two, the contract. He had the richest in NBA history. And number three, what does the team look like when you're the guy? Not only does Brown elevate the team back to a second seed, he finished top 6 in MVP, and he lands on the All-NBA second team. Somehow all of this is negated when Brown goes onto his stream the next day after blowing a 3-1 lead versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this leads to one of the most bizarre instances of devaluing a star player we have ever seen in the history of the league. They used reporters, they used analysts, they used analytics, and in a potential deal that would have landed Giannis Antetokounmpo in Boston, your trade negotiations fall through over 2 prospects. Now, I'm not saying that Paul George is a consolation prize. What I am saying, this is not 2018 Paul George. I got to give Boston a D-. Now, like I said, I was waiting to see if they were going to do anything. I was waiting to see if they had any moves up their sleeve. I was waiting for LeBron James. I was waiting for Anthony Davis. I was waiting for something or someone. They turned down a Jaylen Brown deal. I'm waiting for something to happen. Go get Giannis. Do anything. Don't do nothing. But again, your problem started years back after you won your NBA championship. See, they won the NBA Finals and everybody made the case that, you know, Steph Curry was finally able to secure his legacy. And you would think you secure the future of the organization while also giving Steph another chance to add to it. See, their biggest issue was drafting James Wiseman over LaMelo Ball, but we'll start in 2022. At this point, you still have Jordan Poole, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman as your next crop of stars, already experiencing a deep playoff run in championship basketball. The only way for this to go off the rails is if you do it yourself. See, you go into training camp thinking that you have a chance, if healthy, to run it back. Reports came out that Jordan Poole was feeling himself after his playoff run. They got him a new deal. Draymond wasn't having it. They would go on dancing around the elephant in the room for the rest of that season before ultimately keeping the elephant and trading Jordan Poole. The single worst trade in Warriors modern history. And you know what? The case could be made. It is one of the worst trades in NBA history with respect to Chris Paul. All right, it's not really about Chris Paul. It's what you give up to get. If you're trading Jordan Poole for CP3 that's, you know, going in the year 2012, that version of CP, oh my God, you got to steal. But a Chris Paul that is in the twilight of his career, this is a terrible trade if you consider what Jordan Poole was able to accomplish next to Steph and in that championship run. Instead of bolstering your bench and getting younger assets, you miss out on Giannis. You miss out on LaMelo Ball. You miss out on Kawhi. Jimmy Butler's coming off an ACL tear and you got to pay him $60 million, and then you re-sign Al Horford. Come to find out, you weren't doing any of these things. You were telling your players, hey, we just gonna run it back and burn a year. Really? Let me paint this picture for you. Steph Curry and his legacy has made it a conversation about if he's top 10 all time. You have made it a conversation about whose era was it. LeBron has 4, Curry has 4. Whose era was it? Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time, and he's arguably the greatest point guard ever, and you are wasting his twilight years because you just want to burn a season. F-. But hey, give this video a like. Let me know in the comments What grades do you give these 4 teams for the offseason that they've had and the years leading up to it? That's one more for the good guys.
I'm tired of being humble. I'm tired of letting people